first slide. So here I just want to stress that indeed the partnership is the first ever really dedicated EU funding program for textiles. It doesn't mean that textile research was not funded under Horizon Europe or preceding framework program at all. As a sector, we had in the past some success in the framework programs, but especially since the adoption of the EU textile strategy almost 3 years ago, funding under Horizon Europe has increased quite significantly, especially in the areas of circularity and also new sustainable materials and bio-based solutions. But we're very glad that this dedicated program is now in place, and I will explain to you a little bit what our thinking behind the use of this dedicated budget is, what we identified as the key priorities in our strategic research and innovation agenda, and how we plan to implement the partnership. First, a quick word about the organization that will represent the private sector in the partnership and the organization that I represent. The European Textile Technology Platform for the Future of Textiles and Clothing, which is the full name of the organization, is not a new organization at all. It was launched basically 20 years ago during the first wave of European technology platforms. It then became an independent non-profit organization about 12 years ago, and it was founded by it has 4 sort of full and founder members that represent basically the broad stakeholder community, which is the industry on the one side that is represented by the European Textile and Apparel Industry Confederation, Eurotex. Then we have the applied textile research organizations in Europe that are represented on the European level by an organization called Textranet, and Bras Costa, who's going to speak a little later, is the president of that organization. So those applied research centers are extremely crucial for an industry that is very much SME based and relies a lot for their research and innovation activities on collaboration with external research partners. Then we also represent the textile innovation clusters. As you may know, the textile industry in Europe is somewhat unevenly distributed over the European territory. So it is strongly represented in industrial clusters, so in regional agglomerations of companies, and that create sort of regional value chains that we can find across many EU countries. And there is a European organization that represents those textile innovation clusters that is a member of ours. And then also, of course, the universities play an important role on the more sort of fundamental part of the more basic research side. A vision of innovation that matches to some extent the vision that was put by the European Commission into the EU strategy for circular and sustainable textiles. So what we want to achieve, or what we want this partnership to contribute, is the development and the demonstration of new technologies and also innovative business models for competitive manufacturing of safe and sustainable textile products and some related services that are made from low impact functional materials, that are made by clean and digitally connected processes in regional, circular and fully traceable supply chains that will in the end maintain or create quality jobs, industrial competitiveness and responsible consumption in Europe. So it's very important for us that we see this sustainability drive in the textile sector not just as a pure sort of sustainability initiative and saying, well, let's clean up whatever impacts the consumption of textiles has, but also make sure that at the same time we improve, we sustain the competitiveness of this industry in Europe, which is still very much present, and that is often underestimated by people who are not very familiar with it. It is an industry that is obviously has been significantly transformed over the years. It's not an industry that is very active in mass production of low added value products, but it's an industry that has branched out in many, many different niches, very special types of products and production processes, not only in clothing and fashion, but also in home and interior textiles, and also specifically in technical textiles, which are all sorts of textile materials and products that are used across a very broad domain of applications, from sectors such as construction, automotive, but also the medical sector, for instance, all the way to sort of renewable energy, agriculture, even aerospace and so on, defense and personal protection being also an important market. So there is a very, very diversified textile and apparel industry in Europe that we want to sustain and want to support with this vision and with these activities that relate to the materials, to the production process, to the adoption of digital technologies, and with it the adoption of innovative business models, so that we can continue to competitively manufacture textile products here in Europe in as much as possible regional and circular supply chains, with all sorts of the benefits, both in terms of sustainable consumption and industrial competitiveness in Europe. What we will focus more on is our priority areas 2 and 3, because they're clearly within the scope of cluster 4. So digitalization, digital supply chains, circular business models, and especially also priority area 3, advanced manufacturing, and also high performance textiles. And so we will focus on textile-based products, so we will not focus on products such as composites. So there is a line that we draw. Will we fund research on glass fiber for composites used in renewable energy? No, we will not do that, but we will definitely fund potentially research on advanced manufacturing of high performance textile products for, let's say, personal protection or medical application or things like that. And then very importantly for us, digitalization. We see digitalization as a very, very important driver for sustainability and for competitiveness in this industry. This industry is, let's say, from a digitalization point of view, probably not the most advanced industry, so there's some catch-up we have to do. And if you digitize this industry, you can adopt new business models. For instance, we are very focused on establishing a more on-demand manufacturing paradigm in this industry. As you may know, this industry is currently producing the majority of its products, especially for the clothing and apparel industry, on forecast with long lead times, often in very globalized supply chains, which has a lot of negative sustainability impacts, not only in those production countries where the processes may not be very clean, and there may be pollution issues, or there may be labor issues, but also here in the sense that we produce a lot of products that in the end we find out that nobody wants to buy. So we create a lot of pre-consumer waste, so products that will never be sold and then it needs to be discarded. And that is something that we want to overcome through more on-demand production models. And for that we know that both digital manufacturing processes, digital technology in the factory, but also digitalization of the supply chain end to end, from the lower parts of the supply chain, from the upstream part of the supply chain, all the way to the end consumer, and maybe even involving end of life sorters, recyclers, collectors, to bring them into a digital loop. So you will see once the work programs are published that the first topic we have proposed for the for the Work Program 2025 is very much focused on this digitalization and the on-demand local manufacturing of textiles and apparel. And we expect that that some interesting projects are being funded under this call.